He was waiting for the subway like usual when he noticed a strange passenger hanging around the other commuters. At first he thought the dog must belong to someone, but he was wrong. With his curiosity piqued, he knew he couldn't stand back and do nothing. He needed to see where the dog went. But when he saw what the dog was doing, he immediately called the authorities. Amir usually drove to work, however, as his car was in the workshop, he needed another way to get to work. So he opted for public transport. Amir did not anticipate seeing something like that the first time he took the subway. After waiting patiently at the station with the people, the dog jumped aboard the carriage when it came to a stop. Other than Amir, nobody gave the dog much attention. What exactly was going on? Amir searched for the furry passenger on the subway. However, the train arrived at Amir's station before he had an opportunity to look for it. He needed to get back to work. He initially mistook the dog for a stray that had strolled mindlessly into the train. As a result, he attempted to ignore it. However, their journey would not finish there. Amir arrived home and he completely forgot about the dog he saw on the train. However, the following day, he was stunned to see that the animal had returned to the same metro shop. However, over the following days, Amir spotted the same dog at the train station. He couldn't help but wonder what was going on. Was the animal a stray who got fed by someone on the train? Or was it something even more sinister? Not every day was the same. Amir once saw some people drive the dog out of a carriage by pushing the dog away. Although he attempted to stop them, they continued. Amir once witnessed a group of people pushing a dog out of a carriage. Despite his efforts to stop them, they persisted. People walked by the dog and did not pay him any attention. From the window, Amir could see that the dog was behaving strangely as if it were lost. The dog was confused and roamed around in a haphazard manner among the people waiting for the next train. Amir wanted to do something, but the train left. He wanted to help the dog, but first he had to locate it. He was determined to solve the riddle of the wandering dog. The next morning, Amir decided to take some treats with him to the station. He waited at the same train station, and the dog arrived not long after. Its brown fur was identifiable, despite the fact that it was a little messier than normal. The dog wagged its tail as it grabbed the biscuits. Amir was thrilled he could assist the small puppy after seeing it so delighted. The man, on the other hand, had no intention of stopping there. Amir was contacted by the shop, and they informed him that his car was ready. He resolved to continue traveling the train to work till he could help the dog. He didn't mind taking the train to work, but who knows what sort of mischief that dog was up to every morning. Amir needed to act quickly. He made the decision to contact the police, who sent him to a nearby dog shelter. And when the shelter employees heard the story, they were as perplexed as Amwadi. Initially, the crew intended to simply catch the dog and place it with an adoptive home. However, the riddle of where it was going each day and why it was heading in that direction would not be addressed in this manner. And that implied that the dog was either waiting for someone at home or was caring for some puppies. They couldn't be certain. As a result, the crew took a different path. In order to track the dog's movements, officials at the animal sanctuary placed a tracking device on it. Despite the dog's reluctance to trust them, they achieved it with the help of Amir. All that remained was for them to wait. Having finally turned on, the tracker tracked the dog's location. Crew members were clueless as to what to do when they realized where the dog was going. It was the first time they had ever seen something like this. When the staff checked the tracker after one day, they couldn't believe it. The dog took a very long trip around town, and no one knew why. In the days that followed, it was the same story. The dog would travel for quite a while, and then in the evening, return to its area of departure. Someone from the animal shelter staff decided to track the dog on foot to find out where he travels to every day. The man quickly found out that the dog's name was Boji. He was spotted amongst the locals who started taking pictures of the dog while riding the metro, trains, and even the ferry. It was clear that the dog was very smart. He knew all the public transport rules and gave way to the disembarking passengers waiting for them and entering the train after it's fully empty. And when it came to subway and railway stations, Boji waited on the terrace if the weather was nice, and he went inside if it was cold or raining. The man has never seen a dog like him. When checking the tracker in more detail, the staff of the animal shelter discovered that the Boji was traveling around 29 stops a day, reaching a distance of 27 to 30 kilometers. Boji, though a stray dog, is a crossbreed of Sivas Kangol and Shepherd dog and takes his name from railway terminology belonging to the Sekrikish language. And the canine had been thoroughly checked recently, and the examination showed that the dog had all of his health checkups done and was sterilized before. So the poor pooch had once belonged to a family, but now was living the stray life. He was traveling for so long to reach people in establishments where he could get some food. It was a daily adventure for the dog to get fed by the many people that loved and cherished him. To top it off, many social media accounts were open to track where Boji was last seen as passengers enjoyed his company while traveling. The dog was a nice calming presence and brought joy to every passenger he encountered. So everyone was helping the dog find his way and gave him treats whenever they saw him. Since people began to track Boji, he has become an online sensation. Chris McGrath, a Getty Images photographer, first learned of Boji from Twitter. Netizens began posting selfies with the dog, and now he even has his own Instagram and Twitter accounts with thousands of followers. Chris decided to go to Istanbul to see the dog for himself. He followed Boji around for a day to see where he went and photograph his adventures. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. When he knows where to go. He knows where to get out, Alvin Errol, the head of customer relations at Metro Istanbul, explained. It was a really interesting pattern. It was like he knows where to go and he has a purpose. And for many, Boji has become a much-loved member of the community. Everyone knew him. Chris followed Boji around and couldn't believe the stories were true. He's such a free spirit. All he wants to do is ride on transportation. Every time he goes past a bus or van or any form of transport, he just wants to get on it. It's really quite bizarre, he told CNN News. Chris not only confirmed that Boji does indeed travel up to 20 miles a day on public transport, he discovered something else that was even more unbelievable. Boji has even been spotted taking a weekend trip to Prince's Island. To get there and back, Boji would have to have taken an hour-long ferry ride. When he gets on the ferry, he knows where to go. He makes a beeline for the side with the sun. He loves the water, Chris explained. When the ferry starts going, he starts barking at the waves. But that wasn't all Chris discovered. Boji knew exactly which ferry to choose. He checked one, and people were getting on. I don't know how he knows, but that one was going to Eminon. And the other one was going to Besiktas, Chris said, laughing. So he checked the Eminon one and went, no, that's not the right one. And then he ducked in the turnstiles and went on to the Besiktas one. I don't know how he knows, but he seems to like riding the Besiktas ferry. Chris also discovered another quirky habit of Boji's. Chris was told by the municipal workers that Boji seems to enjoy the different engines of the various vehicles he rides. At the ferry, he'll sit at the back where the engine is because of the vibration. He likes it, Chris explained. And when he's on the metro, he sits where the wheels are, like right underneath on top of the wheels. He always likes this feeling of sitting on those. Indeed, that's how Boji got his name. Boji got his name from the area of the subway right above the wheels. It's known as the Bogi area in railway terminology. In Turkish, Bogi translates to Boji. But how is a street dog able to find enough food to survive on the streets of Istanbul? Being a stray on the streets is dangerous for any animal. So what makes Istanbul different? Istanbul is known as Catistan for a reason. There are so many stray dogs and cats wandering around the streets. But being a stray dog in Istanbul is different from being a stray anywhere else in the world. The city of Istanbul has a program that protects the vast numbers of strays that roam the streets. Food is provided by the city, and there are spay and neuter programs and emergency care services for all stray animals. It's not hard for Boji to find enough food. There'll be water and a food bowl out for animals hidden away in the corners of restaurants or houses, Chris explains. So Boji knows where to go. The municipality is even considering putting up flyers about Boji on the transit system to give people guidance on how to interact with him. But how did the people of Istanbul react to Boji? He went into one restaurant and two men sort of shooed him away, yelled at him, Chris said. And then you hear someone else, another restaurant owner, yelling at those guys going, it's Boji. It's Boji. Don't shoo him away. So he's definitely got celebrity status now. And it's not just the community members of Istanbul who protect their beloved mascot. Evelyn Errol and the other municipal workers have quite a soft spot for the traveling dog. Since Boji became so well known, municipal workers started bringing him in for regular checkups at the vet. They also took it upon themselves to do a behavioral study to see if the dog was okay, and that his interactions with humans wouldn't be a problem for him and the people he meets every day. They took him to a training camp sort of thing and gave him some TLC, some grooming, some shots, Chris told CNN News. They watched him interact, fixed his tracking collar, and that took about a week. Once they were sure Boji was healthy, they released him again, but not without creating a small kennel for him at one of the metro stations. Since people learned of Boji and his strange train hopping habits, he's become a global internet sensation. He boasts more than 79,000 followers across his Twitter and Instagram accounts. Many of his followers are the commuters of Istanbul who know him personally. You take the train, and suddenly, you see Boji, said Alan at Roll Metro Istanbul. You just smile and catch the moment, really? The municipal staff also feed Boji whenever he decides to come back to his kennel. But he doesn't like to stay in one place for too long. He chooses to keep moving. The workers also keep tabs on him from afar, using a mobile tracker to see where he goes and make sure he is safe.